The Abyss is a 1989 American science fiction film written and directed by James Cameron, starring Ed Harris, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, and Michael Biehn. The storyline follows Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth's characters, who are formerly married petroleum engineers dealing with unresolved issues. They are recruited to assist a gung-ho Navy SEAL, played by Michael Biehn, in a top-secret recovery operation, that of a nuclear submarine ambushed and sunk under mysterious circumstances, all unfolding in some of the deepest waters on Earth. The plot of the film is deceptively simple, yet the director has packed it with numerous impending catastrophes. The sunken sub carries nuclear warheads, a hurricane churns up the seas, and given the chaos unfolding 80 miles from Havana, communists are suspected as culprits. The movie is a visceral and pulsating piece of filmmaking, presented with a visually and sonically fluid yet jarring style. H.G. Wells first introduced the concept of a sea alien in his 1897 short story titled In the Abyss. The idea for this film came to James Cameron when he was just 17 years old and in high school, after attending a science lecture on deep-sea diving by a man who was the first to breathe fluid through his lungs in experiments at Duke University. Cameron decided to write a short story focused on a group of scientists in an underwater laboratory. While the basic idea remained, many details evolved over the years, and the story expanded. Upon arriving in Hollywood, Cameron quickly realized that a group of scientists was not commercially appealing, so he transformed the concept into one involving blue-collar workers. During the making of the film Aliens, Cameron saw a National Geographic documentary about remotely operated vehicles operating in the deep North Atlantic Ocean. These images immediately brought to mind his earlier short story. Cameron and producer Gail Ann Hurd decided that this theme would be the basis for their next film. Cameron adapted his short story into a screenplay, generating considerable interest in Hollywood. The cast and crew trained for underwater diving for an entire week in the Cayman Islands, crucial as 40% of the live-action principal photography was underwater. The director's production company had to design and build experimental equipment and develop a state-of-the-art communication system enabling him to speak underwater with actors and record dialogue directly onto tape. Originally planning to shoot on location in the Bahamas, where the story is set, Cameron soon realized he needed more environmental control due to stunts and visual effects. He considered filming in Malta, which had one of the largest unfiltered water tanks, but found it inadequate for his needs. Ultimately, the underwater sequences were filmed at a unit of Gaffney Studios south of Cherokee Falls, outside Gaffney, South Carolina, using specially constructed tanks. 2 specially constructed tanks were utilized. Officials from Duke Power in South Carolina had built the Cherokee nuclear power plant, but abandoned its primary reactor containment vessel, which held 7.5 million gallons of water, was 55 feet deep and 209 feet across. Additional scenes were shot in a second tank, an unused turbine pit holding 2.5 million gallons of water. As the production crew rushed to finish painting the main tank, millions of gallons of water poured in, taking over 5 days to fill. The deep core rig was anchored to a 90-ton concrete column at the bottom of the large tank, consisting of 6 partial and complete modules planned and built from scratch over 6 months. During production, James Cameron nearly died while weighted down at the bottom of this enormous water tank. His assistant director failed to remind him to refill his oxygen, and realizing he was running out of air, Cameron called for help from the underwater director of photography. However, due to hearing loss from an old diving bell accident years earlier, the director did not hear him. With no one else nearby, Cameron realized he had to surface quickly. He quickly released his helmet, harness, and weights, swimming rapidly to the surface. One of the safety divers eventually rescued him, mistaking Cameron's distress for a panic attack and initially holding him tighter, preventing his escape. Both the assistant director and diver were fired the same day. This film likely has one of the most rigorous and problematic shoots in cinematic history. The cast and crew began referring to the movie by various derogatory names, such as Son of Abyss, The Abuse, and others even more graphic. Mary Elizabeth reportedly suffered a physical and emotional breakdown due to the extreme pressure on set. Ed Harris once had to pull over his car while driving home because he burst into spontaneous tears. This cast was pushed to their limits, performing almost all their own stunts and barely escaping with their lives. Both Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth have refused to publicly discuss their experiences working on the film, stating they will not speak about it and never will. Mary Elizabeth said, "The Abyss was many things, but Thundermake was not one of them." The experiences these actors went through likely contributed to why the film translates so well to the big screen, but it was undoubtedly a traumatic experience for those involved. Take a look back at this amazing James Cameron film. It may be hard to find, as it's not readily available for streaming, but if you can locate it, it's definitely worth watching. Here we finish. Thank you for your attention. Like and subscribe. There are many interesting things ahead. Good luck.